Miss Hiller? The water's boiling. Hello! Ah!
Everyone saw Robin Williams as the funny man on screen, but Sally Field saw something more. When she opened up about his behavior on the set of Mrs. Doubtfire, it revealed a side of him few ever knew. What did she witness that left a lasting impact? Let's uncover the story behind the laughter and get ready to see Robin Williams in a new light. How they first crossed paths. When Sally Field first met Robin Williams, it wasn't during some glamorous Hollywood party or a fancy award show. It was on the set of Mrs. Doubtfire in 1993, a film that would later become one of the most beloved family comedies of all time. Directed by Chris Columbus, the film told the story of a father so desperate to stay close to his children after a divorce that he disguised himself as an elderly Scottish nanny. Robin Williams was cast in the lead role of Daniel Hillard, who transformed into the unforgettable Mrs. Doubtfire, while Sally Field played Miranda, his ex-wife trying to move forward and protect her children. Their first encounter was not just a meeting of two talented actors, but the beginning of a heartfelt connection. From the moment they stepped onto the set together, there was a unique kind of energy. Sally Field wasn't just acting alongside a comedy legend. She was stepping into scenes with someone who brought a different spark every time the camera rolled. Williams was known for his unpredictable style. He would often do a few takes just as the script required, and then suddenly shift gears. Without warning, he would start improvising, throwing in lines that no one expected, voices that made people laugh, and gestures that turned even simple moments into something extraordinary. At first, it could have been overwhelming for any co-star. But Sally Field was not just any actress. She embraced the challenge with grace and curiosity. She didn't try to compete with his wild improvisations. Instead, she reacted to them in real time, allowing her character's responses to feel more natural and deeply rooted in the moment. Their scenes together were a dance between structure and spontaneity. Every take felt fresh because Williams never did anything the same way twice. This forced Field to stay present and grounded, which made her performance even stronger. Behind the camera, the crew was constantly adapting to Robin's style. Director Chris Columbus even decided to use multiple cameras at once during filming. He knew that trying to capture Robin's magic from a single angle would be impossible. He wanted to make sure nothing was missed. Field, watching this process unfold, quickly came to respect not just Williams's comedic genius, but also his tireless dedication to getting things right. He wasn't doing it just to show off or steal the scene. He wanted the film to be honest, heartfelt, and funny, in a way that touched people. They were playing a divorced couple, but their real-life connection felt warm and thoughtful. Field saw the sensitive man behind the humor, someone who cared deeply about people and the work they were creating together. And Williams, in turn, admired Field's ability to stay calm, focused, and emotionally available, even when he was throwing the unexpected at her. Their bond was formed through this collaboration, through the shared understanding that they were telling a story that mattered. Their first time working together didn't just result in a great movie. It created a memory that Field would carry with her for the rest of her life. Their meeting wasn't just a moment in a production schedule. It was the beginning of a friendship shaped by laughter, trust, and mutual respect. And it all began the day they stood across from each other, ready to bring Mrs. Doubtfire to life. It wasn't an ordinary connection. It was something different and unique. Let's take a closer look at what truly made their bond stand out, and why the friendship between Sally Field and Robin Williams became one of quiet magic behind the scenes. A connection rooted in respect and creativity. From the very beginning of their work together, Sally Field could tell that Robin Williams wasn't just another funny man. He was something much deeper. His wild energy and quick wit were already well known, but what truly surprised her was his serious commitment to acting. He wasn't just there to make people laugh. He cared deeply about the work, about telling the story right, and about being fully present in every moment. That level of passion stood out, especially to someone like Field, who had always taken her craft seriously. When they started filming Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin had a routine. He would do 3 takes just as the script required. He stuck to the lines, followed the direction, and delivered what was expected. But then, something magical would happen. After those 3 takes, he would start to play. He would let his creativity take over. He would improvise, shifting the lines, trying new voices, changing expressions, and creating moments no one had written down. The air on set would change. It became electric and alive, as if anything could happen next. For some actors, this kind of unpredictability might have been frustrating. But for Sally Field, it brought something special to the work. Instead of sticking rigidly to her lines, she began responding to Robin's surprises in the moment. Her reactions became more real. The emotions that came out during the scenes weren't always rehearsed, but they were honest. It made the characters feel more human, more relatable, and more deeply connected. Robin's energy was contagious, and it made the set of Mrs. Doubtfire feel more like a shared adventure than a job. He would come to work full of ideas and open to the unexpected. That sense of freedom allowed the cast and crew to breathe creatively. Field didn't try to match Robin's speed or inventiveness. Instead, she brought balance. While Robin would often take things in new directions, Field stayed grounded. That contrast created a powerful chemistry. Their scenes together had layers of humor and emotion that grew from their very different but equally strong styles. What truly set their connection apart was the respect that flowed between them. Robin respected Sally for her calm strength and emotional honesty. She respected him for his bravery and boundless imagination. Neither one tried to overshadow the other. They simply worked together, each lifting the other higher. It was not about stealing the scene. It was about telling the story in the most honest and moving way possible. Off camera, that same mutual respect continued. Robin was never too busy to share a kind word or make someone laugh, even when the cameras weren't rolling. He paid attention to the people around him, noticing when someone needed a boost or a break from the pressure. Field saw this side of him too, and it stayed with her. It showed her that behind the whirlwind of characters and jokes was a deeply caring person who wanted to make people feel better, both on and off the screen. Their connection was not loud or flashy. It was rooted in trust, built through moments of real collaboration and creative courage. They allowed each other to be fully themselves, and that trust allowed them to create something unforgettable. The laughter, the tears, and the truth in their scenes came from that bond. Apart from this special connection, Sally Field noticed something else about Robin Williams, something quiet, hidden behind all the laughter. It was a side of Robin that no one really knew about, and years later, she finally decided to speak up and share what she had seen. A friend who could read the room. When Sally Field got the news that her father had died, she was on the Mrs. Doubtfire set, trying her best to stay professional. She was in the camper near the mock courtroom where they were filming the emotional divorce scene. Her father, who had suffered a stroke years earlier, was in a nursing home. His passing hit her hard, and though she wanted to act through the pain, the grief was overwhelming. Yet she didn't break down in front of the cameras. At first, Sally tried to hold it together. She walked onto set, positioned herself in the camper near the courtroom, and focused on the camera and her character. She was a 2-time Oscar winner who had built a career on professionalism and she intended to act through the grief. She didn't cry. She just tried with all her might to be the actress she'd trained to be. Robin Williams, however, noticed right away that something was wrong. He wasn't just joking or playing a character. He was watching Sally carefully. He felt her tension and her sorrow, even though she tried to hide it. Without any delay, he walked over to her, quietly but firmly pulled her away from the set, and asked, "Are you okay?" She told him the truth. "My father just died." It was the toughest thing she'd said all day. What happened next revealed just how deeply he cared. He didn't hesitate. He said, "Oh my God, we need to get you out of here right now." Even though he was the lead actor and even a co-producer with a tight schedule and lots of scenes to shoot, he knew the only thing matters at that moment was Sally's well-being. Robin immediately spoke to director Chris Columbus. Because he had influence behind the camera as well, he was able to change the shoot order on the spot. "Can we shoot those courtroom crossover shots without Sally today? Let's rearrange. She needs to go," Williams urged. Scenes involving Sally were moved or delayed. While she grieved and made funeral arrangements, the rest of the cast and crew picked up the work. "They shot around me the rest of the day," Field recalled quietly. It wasn't just a professional courtesy. Robin had seen beyond the character, beyond the script, to the person who needed help. He stayed by her side until she could leave the set and figure out arrangements with her brother and family. Sally has said this was a side of Robin that few people ever got to see in public. He was very sensitive and intuitive, someone who understood emotions and acted to protect people. For Sally, who had spent decades in Hollywood and known many stars, it was especially moving to see such compassion from someone so beloved and in the spotlight. Robin didn't just care about his own character or his performance. He cared about the world around him, about family, love, grief. He saw Sally's pain and made sure the entire set paused to support her. Looking back, Sally has called the moment unforgettable. She remembers sitting in that camper, feeling numb, not sure how she would continue the day, and then Robin's presence, like a friend stepping in to offer shelter in a storm. He didn't speak loudly or make a big scene. There was no speech, no announcement. He just knew what to do. That quiet intervention has stayed with her, and it shaped how she remembers him forever. It wasn't part of the script, but it was one of the most real moments on that set. Robin Williams had a reputation for energy, improvisation, and comedic brilliance. But this moment revealed a deeper truth. He was a friend who could read the room. He could sense someone's pain and step in without hesitation. It was his kindness that spoke loudest, not his jokes. Years later, even after both of them had left Hollywood's main stage, Sally has shared this story with fresh eyes and a full heart. She said, "I never shared this story before." She was not seeking praise, only remembering an honest moment of humanity. She said that Robin's reaction was a side of him people rarely saw. He was genuinely caring. It meant the world to Sally because she wasn't just losing a father. She was far away, working, acting, in the midst of a scene that had to go on. She couldn't just break down. But Robin made sure she didn't have to pretend. She could step away. She could have space. And she could grieve. That moment stands out in the memory of Mrs. Doubtfire, a film known for its laughter and disguise. Yet, this behind-the-scenes moment brought real grace. When the world knew Robin Williams as a whirlwind of hilarity, Sally Field knew him that day as a protector, a friend, a human being who felt other people's pain and took action. This kindness wasn't just for Sally Field. Robin Williams shared it with everyone around him. Let's take you deeper into another side of his personality, one that revealed just how generous and caring he truly was. A legacy carved in kindness. What truly set Robin Williams apart was not just his talent or energy. It was his heart. Kindness poured out of him. not just when the cameras were rolling, but all the time. Sally Field wasn't the only one who experienced his gentle nature. Everyone on set, from actors to assistants to lighting crew, felt his warmth. He made time for everyone, remembered their names, asked about their lives, and offered a smile when someone needed it. He treated people, never like background noise. One crew member once shared how Robin would spend lunch breaks chatting with the grips or makeup artists. Not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He noticed people. He made them feel seen and important. He had a way of lifting the mood just by being himself. If someone was having a rough day, Robin often found a quiet way to help them feel better, whether with a laugh, a kind word, or simply by listening. This compassion extended far beyond the film sets. Robin Williams co-founded Comic Relief USA, a charity that raised millions to support the homeless. He gave generously to causes that mattered to him, including literacy programs, veterans services, and organizations helping people with disabilities. He was a star, yes, but he used his spotlight to illuminate others. He didn't just talk about change, he helped create it. And he did it with sincerity and humility. Sally Field has spoken with deep emotion about the impact Robin had on her life. Years passed, but she still feels his presence. She once said, "He should be growing old like me." There's sorrow in that sentence. There's the ache of missing a friend who left too soon. But there's also the deep recognition of who he truly was, a rare soul with a bright light that touched everyone he met. Their friendship went far beyond one film. It became a bond that lived on, rooted in moments of laughter and moments of comfort. Sally often reflects on the day Robin helped her off set when her father died. That wasn't a grand gesture meant for headlines. That was Robin being Robin. Sensitive, present, and protective. He didn't just make people laugh. He made them feel safe. Others saw this depth too. Actors like Al Pacino and Ben Stiller noted that behind the comic brilliance was a man who felt things deeply. Robin's intuitive nature allowed him to sense pain, joy, tension, even when it was unspoken. Sally Field once said many people never saw that side of him. They saw the wild humor and the fast-talking characters, but not the quiet empathy that made him such a remarkable human being. That's what made Robin Williams irreplaceable. His humor made people laugh, but it was his kindness that made them feel loved. He could read a room, sense a person's pain, and offer something real in return. He was a master at connecting, not just through comedy, but through compassion. In every project he worked on, he left behind more than just great performances. He left behind better people. He made sets more joyful, made strangers feel like friends, and made those close to him feel understood. That is the legacy Sally Field remembers most clearly. Not just the laughs, but the love behind them. So when people think of Robin Williams, they often remember the loud moments, the jokes, the characters, the voices. But those who knew him best, like Sally, remember the quiet strength he carried inside. A strength made of kindness, sensitivity, and a willingness to lift others up without asking for anything in return. That is the legacy he carved, not just in film, but in life. But unfortunately, no one truly saw the pain hidden behind Robin Williams's warm smile and endless kindness. Beneath the laughter was a quiet struggle. Let's now take you into some of the sad and tough parts of his life that few ever knew. Final struggles and misdiagnosis. In the final chapter of Robin Williams's life, the joy and energy that had once defined him began to fade. Behind the smiles, the jokes, and the boundless creativity, something painful was happening, something few could see, and even fewer understood. In the early months of 2014, Robin Williams found himself in a place he rarely showed to the world. His career, once unstoppable, had slowed down. His recent TV show, The Crazy Ones, had failed to make the impact he had hoped for. Ratings were low, and the show was cancelled after one season. This was a heavy blow to someone who had spent a lifetime entertaining millions and thriving in the spotlight. For Robin, it wasn't just about a job ending. It felt like the closing of a door he had always trusted would stay open. At the same time, he was navigating deep personal transitions. He had gone through a second divorce not long before, which left emotional scars. He had also remarried, hoping to find new happiness with Susan Schneider. But adjusting to a new marriage while dealing with the grief of a failed one and a struggling career was not easy. He was a man caught between chapters, trying to find peace but feeling lost in the process. Then came a piece of news that added even more pressure. In May 2014, Robin was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. For a man whose entire identity was tied to his quick thinking, physical movement, and sharp wit, the idea of slowly losing those abilities was terrifying. Parkinson's often leads to trembling, stiffness, memory loss, and changes in mental health. Robin was already battling anxiety and depression, and the diagnosis only made these feelings worse. He began to feel like his world was shrinking, his options fading. But there was something even more heartbreaking hidden beneath the surface. After his death, an autopsy revealed that Robin had not only been misdiagnosed, he had actually been suffering from a different disease altogether, Lewy body dementia. This rare but aggressive brain disorder affects thinking, memory, movement, and behavior. It can cause severe depression, paranoia, confusion, and hallucinations. The symptoms often come and go, making it difficult to understand what is happening, even for doctors. Robin had no idea what was really happening inside his brain. He was trying to make sense of a storm without knowing the cause. Those closest to him began to notice changes. Friends and family watched as the lively, sharp-witted man they knew became more anxious, more withdrawn. His memory sometimes failed him. His hands shook. He became fearful of losing control over his own mind. For someone who had always relied on being spontaneous and in the moment, these symptoms felt like the ultimate betrayal. And yet, he rarely spoke of the pain he was in. To the public, he still smiled. He still cracked jokes. But behind that smile was a man fighting a silent and confusing battle. Robin's decline was rapid. He tried to keep working, to stay active, to keep hope alive. But the illness was relentless. He began to isolate himself more and more, unsure of how to ask for help, or even what kind of help he needed. The man who had once lit up every room he entered began to disappear behind a fog of sadness and confusion. On August 11th, 2014, the world was shocked by the news of his death. He had taken his own life in his California home. The outpouring of grief was immediate and global. Fans, friends, and colleagues mourned the loss of a man who had brought so much joy. But for many, it was also the first time they truly understood how deeply he had been suffering. The tragic irony was clear. Robin Williams, one of the greatest sources of laughter and light, had been consumed by an illness that stole that very light from within. His death started important conversations about mental health, misdiagnosis, and the hidden battles many people fight. It reminded the world that even those who seem the happiest can be struggling the most. For Sally Field and others who knew him well, it was not just the loss of a friend, but the painful realization that the kindness and empathy he gave so freely to others were rarely turned inward. Though his life ended in tragedy, his impact remains bright, a reminder to always look deeper, to check in with the people we love, and to never assume that a smile means everything is okay. Robin's death shook the world to its core. It felt impossible that someone who had given so much joys could be gone in such a heartbreaking way. But even in his absence, the love people had for him never faded. Let's tell you how the world remembers Robin Williams with laughter, love, and an unshakable sense of loss. Tributes and the lasting legacy of laughters. In the final months of his life, Robin Williams was not just battling a medical diagnosis. He was fighting something far more invisible and cruel. His decline began quietly, with signs that seemed scattered and confusing. Robin's wife, Susan Schneider, later described the experience as the terrorist inside my husband's brain. That was how unpredictable and frightening it felt. One moment, he would seem like himself, and the next, he was confused, fearful, or mentally distant. For someone who had spent a lifetime using his mind so quickly and creatively, losing that control was unbearable. The very thing that had made him a genius, his brain, was turning against him. And unlike many illnesses, this one didn't offer much hope. There was no cure, little understanding, and few moments of peace. It wasn't just a health struggle. It was the slow erasure of the man he had always been. One of the most touching comes from his longtime friend, Christopher Reeve. After Reeve's life-altering accident that left him paralyzed, it was Robin who lifted his spirits. Disguised as a Russian doctor, speaking in a ridiculous accent, Robin barged into the hospital room and told Reeve he was there to perform an emergency rectal exam. It was the first time Reeve laughed after the accident. That moment gave him hope. It was more than a joke. It was Robin's way of saying, "You're still here. You're still you." Colleagues across Hollywood felt his absence deeply. At film premieres and industry events following his death, many stepped forward to share their sorrow and celebrate his life. Actor Jeff Bridges described losing a brilliant soul, someone whose energy touched everyone around him. Others, including producer Harvey Weinstein, honored his work and his spirit, vowing to continue spreading the kind of joy Robin was known for. These tributes weren't just professional, they were personal. So many people had been changed by him, both on screen and off. More tributes came from all corners of the entertainment world. Billy Crystal, who had been one of Robin's closest friends, delivered a moving speech at the Emmy Awards that year. His voice cracked as he said, "He made us laugh hard. Every time you saw him, he was the greatest friend you could ever imagine." Whoopi Goldberg, another longtime friend, simply said, "It's like losing a part of yourself." Even former President Barack Obama issued a statement describing Robin as an airman, a doctor, a genie, a nanny, and everything in between. But he was one of a kind. He arrived in our lives as an alien, but he ended up touching every element of the human spirit. The wave of grief extended far beyond the red carpets and movie sets. Online platforms lit up with tributes from fans all around the world. Strangers who had never met Robin felt the loss, as though they had lost a dear friend. One person shared that they were driving when they heard the news of his death.
Terrible news of the death of Robin Williams.
And had to pull over because they felt so gutted. That kind of reaction wasn't rare. For many, Robin had been a comforting presence through the ups and downs of life. His movies were go-to favorites on rainy days, his interviews were moments of pure honesty, and his comedy brought light to even the darkest moods. Robin Williams left behind more than just movies. He left behind a legacy of laughter, comfort, and unforgettable characters that continue to live on in people's hearts. For many fans, his voice as the genie in Aladdin was their first introduction to his magic. The genie wasn't just funny, he was full of heart, energy, and warmth, all brought to life by Robin's quick wit and improvisation. Children and adults alike still quote his lines and smile at the memory. In Mrs. Doubtfire, Robin showed his deep love for family through a character who would do anything to stay close to his children. He made people laugh, but he also made them cry. Fans remember this role not just for the jokes, but for the deep emotional truth it carried. He played it so honestly that many saw themselves or their loved ones in him. His role in Dead Poets Society as Mr. Keating left a lasting impact on a generation. With the famous line, "Carpe diem," he taught students to seize the day and find their own voices. People still quote that line today, often during life's turning points, as a reminder of courage and purpose. Fans also remember his comforting roles in Good Will Hunting and Patch Adams, where he brought wisdom, kindness, and emotional depth. He had a unique gift of blending humor with humanity, making people laugh while also making them feel deeply understood. Even years after his passing, fans continue to celebrate his work. Online tributes, fan art, and movie marathons keep his memory alive. For many, Robin Williams is not just a comedian. They remember him as a friend, a teacher, and a light during dark times. His laughter lives on. What are your thoughts on what Sally Field shared about Robin Williams, their bond, his kindness, and the pain he quietly carried? We'd love to hear your reflections. Share your thoughts in the comments below.